Good morning and welcome to Arise Africa. My name is Michael Mukamba, hoping you're well. So we kick off today's show with the catch-up, where I give you a roundup of what you might have missed on your headlines in the past 1 week. And starting us off, government strife-torn Central African Republic resigns on Tuesday as part of a peace deal reached last month with the Christian and Muslim rebels factions in the interim. President says, Catherine Samba-Panza said, the deal signed at Brazzaville after the week-long talks is the first of its type in the Wilder Peace Agreement to end violence, in which thousands have died and nearly a quarter of the national population have been driven from their homes since March 2013 coup. The interim head of government appointed in January, Prime Minister Andre Zakapanyeke, who is 62, is a technocrat and a former banker. Despite of the peace accord, tension remained high in the country, where several Seleka militiamen were killed on Tuesday in a clash with French peacekeepers in the north. And last week, at least 22 died in a fight between the ex-rebel Seleka and the mainly Christian anti-Balaka fighters. You can see on the screen just a brief preview of what is happening in the Central African Republic. That's the picture of the president that has stepped down amid the peace troops. You can see tension seems to be high in the Central African Republic. And moving on, the top U.S. diplomat for Africa objected on Monday to claim by the leading Kenyan civil society activist that business figures are funding terrorism in East and Central Africa. The exchange between Assistant Secretary of State in the African Affairs Linda Thomas Greenfield and Kenya's campaigner Maina Kiai took place in the Civil Society Forum on the opening day of the U.S. and Africa Summit in Washington, contending that business is financing Somalia's Al-Shabaab and Nigeria's Boko Haram. Mr. Kiai asked the members of the panel that the forum is why African governments are most likely to place restrictions on civil society organizations and that private companies that own them. Thomas Greenfield objected, saying that we can't make that broad generalization. She said that while the terror groups may connect in a few business figures, the vast majority of the businesses are not connected with and are legitimate. Nothing that the Civil Society Forum panel included in the president of Tanzania and Ghana. Mr. Kiai prefaced his remarks in a question and answered the session by saluting two heads of states in demonstrating courage and talking in the part of the forum. You can see on the screen, one side, the U.S. top diplomat, Ms. Greenfield, and the other side, Kenya's activist, Maina Kiai. And the World Bank has announced a $5 billion support package for the U.S.-led Power Africa initiative in 6 countries, that is including Kenya. The World Bank President Jin Yong Kim on Tuesday told the U.S. Business Forum that it's the ongoing U.S. and Africa Leaders Summit will support be direct in form of direct financing, investment, and guarantees that advisory services to project the preparation. The project launched by Barack Obama on June 30th seeks to help plug Africa's 100 gigawatt power gap that has seen 85% of the rural population living in the dark. The U.S. has already committed $7 billion to the initiative that has seek to step in a double electricity generation and transmission in the sub-Saharan Africa. Other African partners countries have seen the first phase of the project and aims in injecting more than 10,000 megawatts of the electricity in the national grid. Tanzanians, Ethiopia, Ghana, Liberia, and Nigeria, over 650 million people out of Africa's 900 million population, lack access to electricity, and aim that the initiative is to build Africa's enormous power potential. You can see a photo of the World Bank, and more on the World Bank, The World Bank has pledged up to $200 million to help sustain the deadly virus of Ebola, reaping panic across West Africa. The World Bank said on Tuesday that it will provide up to $200 million to Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone to help the West African nations to contain the deadly outbreak. World Bank President Jim Yong Kim himself and an expert on infectious diseases say that he has been monitoring the spread of the virus and is deeply saddened on how it has been contributing to the breakdown of the already weak health systems in the three countries. The funding will help provide the medical suppliers with the healthcare staff and take care of other priorities to contain the pandemic and try to prevent the future outbreaks of the World Bank. That's what they say. And the bank has made announcements that the African leaders, including 35 presidents, are visiting Washington for the U.S. summit. On our screen, you can see the updates on what is happening in Ebola in West Africa. That is just a brief preview of what is happening, with now the World Bank pleading up to $200 million to help the World Bank. And a minister of the minister in the United Kingdom, rather, has the first Muslim woman to sit in the cabinet, has resigned over the British government's policy on Gaza. That was said on Tuesday. Wasi's parents are Pakistani immigrants, and that have made the member of House of Lords in 2007. She was appointed to Cameroon's cabinet when the coalition government took power in 2010, and while she initially had a high media profile, her star had dimmed in the recent years. She has been shuffled out of the full cabinet and into the powerful inner circle of the government ministers in 2012. Cameroon's coalition government has drawn criticism, including the major opposition and Labour Party, and not taking to the tougher lines against Israel operations on Gaza. He said on Monday that the UN was right to condemn the shelling of the UN schools in Gaza that killed 10 people on Sunday, but declines to say that whether he thought it was a breach of international law. On the screen, you can see a photo of Waji, the lady who has just resigned from the ministerial position in England, in the UK rather. That's just her. And we're moving on to other stories that have made headlines this week. And an overloaded ferry sank in rough conditions in central Bangladesh on Monday, with up to 200 passengers on board in the latest disaster to hit the country's rivers. Emergency workers say that around 100 survivors and 2 dead bodies have been pulled out of the river, but the rest remain unaccounted for. The ferry was around 30 kilometers south of the capital of Dhaka when it sank, and the river Padma in the central district of Munshiganj, where the ferry accidents are common, has impoverished the country, and it is an overcrowding of the pool ship design that maintains often to blame. Local police Toferez Hussein told the reporters that the vessels was overloaded with passengers and conditions were rough. Rescue workers in the Navy have mobilized at the scene, and the ship in which underwater cameras have been deployed to try locate the sunken vessel. Fire services official Mohammed Dulal told reporters that the divers have since been deployed to try locate the sunken ferry, but are looking for survivors. And with the stormy conditions and the large waves that were preventing what's going on in the water. The police chief Madaripo, were at the ferry when it began its journey, rather said it was carrying up to between 170 to 200 passengers, but one survivor speaking to the local television said that there were 350 passengers on board. On the screen, you can just see the sunken vessel. That's a clip of the ferry in Bangladesh. We can see people gathered around to see and are actually bewildered by the scene. And it's actually pretty common in this side of of Bangladesh, since it has said that it has cost them, it has since impoverished them because accidents are rampant with this overloading. And that was the news roundup, rather. We take a breather, but when we come back, we resume shortly with the business roundup.